And I'm recording.
All right, let me see here. Click share.
Oh my gosh, there are so many Q homies in this group right now. It is awesome.
All right. Do you see the book?
I see the book.
Yeah.
All right. Let's open this book up. Okay, we ready?
Yeah, I love seeing where everyone's from.
Yeah, I think, John, we got so many people jumping in. Let's do a quick round of invitations before we jump into, not invitations, introductions before we get into content. Does that sound okay for the team?
Sounds good to me.
I'm going to nominate Holly to go first.
Hi, everyone, especially from California.
I think we have it on the pages, right?
Huh? Yeah, we do. But I come last, actually. So why don't we go by page?
Oh, that's a good idea.
All right, Catherine, go for it, Catherine.
All right. Well, welcome to the Q and Book Creator event. We're so happy to have you here. I'm especially happy because I'm actually from California, West Coast, and I used to teach in California too. So really excited to have you all here. I'm Catherine Capillo. I work on the school partnerships team here at Book Creator. Follow me at bookcreator_cat, and you can also shoot me an email easily at catherine@bookcreator.com, and my awesome colleague Jon.
Oh, that's my cue. Jon Smith. I am losing my hearing on a phone call trying to cancel my cable subscription, and some noise popped into my ear, and I'm losing like my hearing in my right ear. So everything feels really weird right now. So if I'm screaming at you, I apologize.
You seem to be spot on, John.
Okay, good. I'm from Ohio. I am the teacher success manager here at Book Creator, the iPod teacher on tour. I'm going old school. Jon Smith at bookcreator.com is my email. I taught special ed for 12 years. I was a tech integration specialist for 7, and now teacher success manager. I've got a wife and 3 kids who are right over here. So if you see me mute things and turn this way and look like this, it means I'm probably yelling at somebody. And I also love golf, and I love cars. So I detail cars on the side.
Hashtag COVID teaching, right? Bring the fam.
Right. That's right.
My name is Jon Corippo. I currently have my plumber in the front yard working on my septic tank, calling from Course Gold, California. I'm the Chief Learning Officer. I noticed that Jon Smith is an Apple Distinguished Educator. And John, I just want to throw this at you. 2011 was the best class ever. I'm super excited to show everybody that's joining up, and all these Q names is so rad. We're at 200 people and they just keep coming in. I'm admitting them in the waiting room like crazy. And I'm going to talk about how Book Creator and Edu protocols live in a symbiotic relationship. And Holly and I had a mind-blowing session this week on her Infuse Classrooms show. So I think Holly's up next.
I am up next, and I'm so excited because I love Book Creator, and I see we have a lot of Book Creator ambassadors, so maybe they can even in the chat give some recommendations for how they're using it, because we all are better together. I live in San Diego, so I'm happy and I smile all the time. And because I used to live in Chicago, and I loved it in the sun. But then I moved here because no one ever has to ask why. Anyway. So I am also, along with being the last person to go in and introduce myself, I'm going to be the first person to talk about Book Creator, which works out really well. I wonder who organized this. So I wanted to say, though, before we move on, that I did a free Book Creator course with Book Creator, and you can find that at Infuse link /online. There's also a free course for Flipgrid. There's a free course for Adobe Spark. There's about to be one for Seesaw if I could get my act together. And so I'm just trying to provide these free resources, because every time I go somewhere and present somewhere, people are like, this is great. And I come back a year later, like the same conference, they're like, yeah, I went to this last year, but I didn't use it. I was trying to fill that gap, because they leave and they don't know where to get the information. So this was my way of doing that. And then when remote learning came out, I had to jump on with Book Creator. But I'd already had that in the works since Spec for the same reason. So exciting, all the people that are here. If whoever is changing the slides wants to change the slide.
That's me.
We'll let whoever's going to do the agenda talk about it, and then I'll go.
Okay, a minute. I'm just going to go through agenda. What you're going to be looking at today is how Book Creator has changed the lives of Holly and the Johns and their students. We're going to focus on, first with Holly, learning journals and the power of pressing record. Then we're going to move over to Jon with Book Creator, the power of publishing, the world is our audience, and then finish up with digital class books. So without further ado, I'm going to let them do their thing, and I'm
Okay, so this artwork right here is world premiere. Just got finished last night for the Chromebook Infused Classroom. I'm obsessed with it. And wanted to use this piece because as we go from analog to digital, which whether or not we were choosing to do that because we're a Book Creator ambassador, we're like, this is our jam right now, or we're just trying to find those things that we can do well. Going from analog to digital works really well with Book Creator. And Book Creator to me is the most underused app in, like, I don't even need to call it the Google ecosystem because it also works on Microsoft Edge, but this ecosystem where we need kids to create. And people are all the time, I see them creating on Google Slides. Nothing's wrong with that, but you can do it in Book Creator and make it so much more like, put it in almost a reciprocal or an organized fashion where kids can take it from what happened?
Somebody loves your ideas, Holly.
I know, it's awesome. And then I see Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Long time no see. Anyway, so you can take it and make a learning journal, and that's something you really, I mean, you could do in Google Slides, but it would just be really hacking something that you don't want to do in that way. So if we go to, oh, by the way, so if you like any of the Infused Classrooms I'm going to talk about, I do a weekly newsletter to try and like get out those ideas out there. So if you want to join that, you can go to infuselink.com/tips. But anyway, if we move to the next page and look at this, we're using Book Creator almost like a slide presentation, but it's so much more. So one of the things that I talk about in the Infused Classroom is crazy. This is like when I did a keynote. Sirens go off on Wednesdays, so like in the middle of it, the big siren that went, "Roar!" And I was like, oh my God. Anyway, and I just laughed the way I am now, even though there was a siren that's like a big tornado one going off. Anyway, so as we're making that move from digital, analog to digital, or even just digital, the reason why you got devices in classroom was not so that you could type a paper, because we've been doing that for a long time. It's not so that you could do online searching, because in most instances we're not doing that correctly. We're not teaching kids how to do it, and when they come up to us and say, I can't find anything on George Washington, we're wondering why they can't, because we're not teaching them those things. And so why we have devices in our classroom, in my opinion, after having them for 20 years, is that we want to use them to make student thinking visible. We want to know when they know something, know when they don't, and we want to be able to change our instruction in real time to meet their needs. So I'm going to apply this learning, this kind of framework to what I'm going to show you in a learning journal. And we want to hear from all students. And in 2020, if we're not hearing from every student every day, I'm going to have to push forward that I think we're doing it wrong. And we want the ability to share their work, and so that they can learn from each other. And Book Creator gives us this way. You're going to see it in a second as I take you to an example of where students can share their work with each other, like, because they're in a library and they can see what other kids are doing. Often teachers are like, how do you turn this off? And I'm like, but why would you want to? Like, let kids see each other's, let them build on each other's ideas. And that's what Book Creator does so well. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen. And I'm going to take you into an example from, this will stop other screen sharing. Okay, sorry about this, only for a second. And I'm going to take you into one that I was doing with some kids. And can we see the Wonder Journal?
We're good.
Okay. So this one's not mind-blowing. I'm going to show you, like, in the SAMR model, and I always having all my things up. This is where you can make comments, and I have too many tabs, but this is nothing, actually. I put some away for you guys. So often, like as we're looking at SAMR, what I'm going to show you is a little bit of substitution, but I'm going to show you how to take it from substitution to something else. So normally when people think about Book Creator, they think of it as like a place where kids can make books, which is great. They can. And by the way, I don't know if you can see this little picture on my screen. Can you guys see that? It looks like a little Twitter picture.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It won't go away. That's awesome, Apple. I was taking a screenshot of our thing the other day, John. It was, someone said it was awesome, and I wanted to send it to you, and I couldn't get it past there. Now it lives there. Anyway, so in Book Creator, and I kind of squirreled myself, people think of it like it's just a place where kids can make books. Yes, that is true, but it's much more. So I want you to think about this. I'm going to open this up, and this is an example of a mentor text for kids. So I asked them in their own book, this is my book, to put what their learning goal is for the unit. And then I'm going to grab an assessment of prior knowledge, and I'm going to put it in here before we start. Like, you know, what is the essential question of wonder? And I'm going to get some information around that. And then as we read wonder, I'm going to collect information from throughout reading this book, and I'm going to place it inside of Book Creator so that I have this whole organized thing of from the beginning when we started reading it until the end. And then the kids are going to turn that into me and go, here's my work, Ms. Clark. Here's everything I did in this unit. As you can see here, kids have to go back into the text and show when something happened. So I want them to show me where people are choosing kind. So I give an example, and then they start putting it on the pages. Here's an example, though, where you're just taking, in SAMR, you're just taking substitution. You're going to take August, who is the first chapter, and you're going to write this acrostic poem. But this is where we're going to go to the next section, actually, where we're going to start talking about record. So as a student does this August thing, and they tell you all the things they learned about August, this acrostic poem, we don't stop there. We go to press record. And before I leave this, I want to show you, and there's more in here, but it's in the course. But if I go back to another example, and I was doing this one in the course actually, but I did this one with sixth grade class right the day before everything got shut down. And we were creating a plant cell book. We were grabbing and getting their assessment of prior knowledge, and we actually could do that in a video. I have to come over. You guys' faces are on my screen, so I can't see. And so we could do this in Book Creator. I did this in Flipgrid for a certain reason. So I brought this Flipgrid in here. And if I open it, you can see she's going to tell me in a second. Hopefully my internet might not be fast enough. But this is a student telling me everything they know about plant and animal cells before we begin.
I think cells are what makes up everything around us. They can also be germs.
So I bring this in, and I have their assessment of prior knowledge. And then along the way, I'm getting information like, what do you think a plant cell is? Now say it in your own words, press record. Then we always had the cell rap song that they loved. So I put it in the book. And these are the kinds of things that you can have in this book, that you're creating a book of learning with students or a learning journal. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to talk a little bit. Oh, actually, let me go back one more. I'm going to head back. I forgot to talk about this. This is my favorite thing. So this was when we were reading Wonder, like I talked about with fifth graders. But I want to show you what I had the fifth graders do that can be game-changing, and most Book Creator ambassadors already are doing stuff like this. But since I can't get in, hold. Let me go in this way. Okay, so I had them grab page 17, and I had them take a picture. They took a picture, and then I had them, and I told them, this particular instance, I really wanted to get at their inflection and whether they could read, because they're fifth graders, and I kind of knew their fluency enough at this point, because this was the end of the year. But I had them record themselves reading page 17, and then I asked them to do their best job, to really practice it. So when they read it, they got that chance that you wait for in class, where you're reading the way you always dreamed. Like, you know, when you were waiting in fifth grade for your spot, and you're like practicing your words and you're getting ready. This was an opportunity for them to do that without having to wait for the kid and not listen to what he was reading, because they were preparing for their reading, and get at fluency that way. So like, I'm grabbing that kind of stuff and I'm placing it in one receptacle where I can see their learning over time, but they can see each other's. So I'm going to stop sharing, something I said I would do, but so I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to let someone else put up the book again. But there is nice work. If we go to the next one, so those were the examples of the learning journal, perfect. And we talk about this press record. If you see me at a conference coming up in the future, if we go to them again, which I'm sure we will someday, I will have a t-shirt on that says press record, because that's the number one thing I don't think that we're doing enough of in education with Seesaw, with, well, Flipgrid, we're pressing record, and that's why I fell in love with it. But we're not doing it enough in Book Creator. We're doing all this great artwork, but we're not having students say, stop, why did you pick these elements? Explain to me your thinking here. And so with every page, I want students to, when they do that acrostic poem, tell me why they chose the words they did. And that's multi-dimensional kind of learning that we want to do inside of Book Creator, because we want to get at more than just, you can fill out an acrostic poem. Because if I was going to do that, I could make a copy. They don't need to have Book Creator. I need to get at their thinking. And when we start to understand how important getting at student thinking is for understanding who they are as learners, then the game changes. And that's why administrators everywhere have bought Chromebooks and iPads and whatever it is that you're using, because they want meaningful representations of what kids can do. They want us to know these kids as individuals, and Book Creator gives us this way we can do it. So I hope by starting this way, sorry, John.
Hey, Holly, no, I just had a question from the audience for you. Can kids make their own private books if they don't want to be collaborative? And can you still work with those?
I mean, everyone does that for sure. They could even have, and I've done this for kids before, they want to write their own book and they don't want anyone to see it. And they really want it, like they want to write a novel. So I make them their own library. And I love going back and seeing where they are later. So I could even make their books private. But so I want to talk about that really quickly. If you make a kid's private, and maybe they don't feel comfortable with it, and that's a whole nother ballgame. But if I'm making a book and I can't think of anything, and I go into someone else's book and I look at what they're doing and I compare it with what I'm doing, then I'm thinking about thinking and the metacognition. And that's like mic drop teaching, when you can bring that into something like this. Yeah. So as we move forward and other people share, I want you just to think, can we press record? And I want you to think of Book Creator as more than a kid who's writing a book. And like I taught 7th grade language arts, more than the narrative that I might put in here, which would be fantastic, but it's more than that. It's a science interactive notebook. It's a math tutorial book. It's so many things.
I love it, Holly. And I love the way you talked about moving across the SAMR level, right? So like when the teacher's getting geared up for this thing, they can just substitute things, but digitally, which allows kids things like typing and more choices for graphics and changing fonts, which we don't have with a pencil. But then as you start putting in the recordings and doing these other things, you start rapidly moving into augmentation, and then you slide right over to modification. So I would thank you for being so clear with that part.
Awesome. Yeah, great job, Holly. And so I did see something in there about students messing with other work. I just wanted to address this real quick. Unless you turn on collaboration, students cannot edit other student work. So I know that's a concern for some people. There's also a little toggle in the library that allows you to turn off the ability for students to see other student work. So you can totally keep it private to begin with. At the end, you can combine all their books and do some amazing things. And we have some great getting started with Book Creator webinars if you really want to take a deep dive into like all those features. Course is great as well. So definitely, if you're interested in that stuff, please take advantage of those. So my portion is called "The World Is My Audience," and this took me quite a while in my teaching career to get to this point. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick, one at a time. Okay, whoop, I need to go back. I got to hide everybody's face. Let me go back.
I know,
okay.
It's hard.
All right, there we go. So my part is "The World Is My Audience." And I'll be honest, the only reason anybody on Twitter or anywhere knows who I am is because of this. If it wasn't for this, I would be just Jon Smith sitting in his basement right now. Okay, so this is the bread and butter of me and who I am and who I've become over the last 8 or so years that I've been using Book Creator. And so I'm going to click on this globe here. I'm going to share a brief version of my story. Right. And so my story starts with these guys right here. All right. And these were my 5th grade special ed kids. I know what you mean. I know what you're thinking. They're smiling. That's my son is poking in. They're smiling. They're happy. They look cute. Right. They don't look all that bad, but don't let them fool you. Right. These students that I had were not happy. They were not smiling. They were just awful monsters. Right. In my life. And as a matter of fact, these aren't my kids at all. These are some Google kids. I don't even know who these are, but my kids look nothing like these kids. And they had big problems. And so I started talking to them and trying to see what I could do to help them make school more exciting. And they just didn't care about anything, right? They could care less about me. They could care less about school. They could care less about everything. But specifically, I was concentrating on writing, right? And the reason I focused on writing is because they hated it. But I hated it as an adult. Like, I didn't even like to write. So I was trying to figure out if I could help myself, then maybe I could help these kids. And so I started thinking about what I could do to help them with writing. And so, I tried writing prompts. Okay. I tried like the typical type of writing prompts, and the kids hated them. And I just ended up pulling out my hair. So I tried gross writing prompts, right? Like I was like, hey kids, we're going to wake up. We're going to pretend like we're dogs. You wake up, you lick your butt. What happens next? And the kids are like, oh my God, stop. Right. And they were throwing up in the back of the class.
That's aggressive.
Yeah. And they were like this. And I was like, okay, well, that's not going to work. Right. So like, I was like, we're going to have to try something different. So I thought I'd try food. And food didn't work. And I was like, gosh. And I felt like this boxer here. I felt knocked out. I felt like a failure. I felt like I was never going to reach these kids. And so I did what every really, really good teacher does, right? I went to the teacher store, and there it was in the back left corner, the writing section, ironically right next to the Advil. I was like, this is it. This will have my answer. And I found it. I found the book, right? 720 journal prompts, 2 for every day of the year. And I was like, or actually my math is bad, 730 journal prompts, 2 for every day of the year, right? I was like, this is it. This is going to be my answer. So I was excited. My kids, they started rolling their eyes. We've got angry Roger Federer down here at the bottom, right? I mean, like, this was just sad, right? Kids hated everything that I was trying. And again, I felt like a mess. So after years of thinking about this, I came up with 3 reasons why I think kids don't like school and they don't like writing specifically. And the number 1 reason is that these kids do all of this work, whether we like it or not. They do all of this work. They turn it into us, and that's it. The audience of 1. And I mean, most of these kids have 10,000 YouTube followers before we eat breakfast, but then they turn in their work to you, right? Just teach you. Yeah. And I was like, that's not okay. Second thing I thought is that even in 2020, we're still telling kids, you're not allowed to collaborate, right? That's cheating. That's not collaboration. Stay in your seat. Don't talk to your neighbor. Look forward. Desks and rows, right? Like, we still do that, and it drives me crazy, and it drives the kids crazy. And then the third thing that I found is that we ask these kids, hey, you just graduated high school, you just graduated 5th grade, we graduate kids from kindergarten. What did you leave behind, right? And the kids are like, gum under the desk, and that's it, right? There is no work that's going to benefit other people. There's no work left behind. There's no legacy. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I had these ideas. I was like, what am I going to do? And then
and you managed to work in food grossness at the same time.
That's right. Why not?
You got it all.
I found Book Creator, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. And at the time, it was just on the iPad. It wasn't on, online or anything like that. And I said to the kids, guess what? We're going to write a book. And they're like whining and complaining. And I was like, no, listen, there's more to the story. I was like, listen, we're going to write this book and we're going to publish it for the whole world to see. And the kids were like, why? And I said, because I want the whole world to see how bad your writing is. And they said, wait. Yeah. And I said, I want the whole world to know how bad it is so that I don't feel alone anymore in this. And the worst kid I've ever had in my entire teaching career raised his hand. And it was Mr. Smith. And I said, what's up? He goes, if we're going to write a book for the world, don't you think we ought to make it good? And I was like, you got it. And what I found is that these kids have realized that teachers sometimes, a lot of times, certainly in my situation, I didn't want to read their stuff anymore because it was always garbage. But when other people want to read your stuff and are not getting paid to grade it and are not getting paid to like it, they just make comments. That makes a huge difference for those kids. And it made a huge difference for my students. And at this point, we've published 155 different books, right, for Globe. And we've had 60,000 some odd downloads of those books. And these kids are motivated like to the hilt, right? I mean, they're like super excited about this. So just in recap of this, publishing for an audience of one stinks, right? Your kids will hate that. But publishing for an audience of more is better. The world is my audience, right? And with technology, we can allow that to happen. The second piece is that we can collaborate, right? We can work together. We don't have to be by ourselves. And then the third piece was that we need to think about leaving behind a legacy. What work are we going to do that's going to benefit other kids, not just myself in the wastebasket where I throw my work when I'm finished, right? How are we going to benefit others? So that being said, I wanted to share just a few quick samples of not boring samples, all right, of things that people are doing in Book Creator that I think are fantastic. All right, so the first is this amazing Book Creator activity book that we have. And if you haven't checked this out, you got to check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's stress-free in this crazy time that we're living in. Your kids are just going to love it. You're going to love it. So if you go to this link on our website, there's the activity book, and it's filled with 50, 55 different activities that you and your students can take. It reminds me of like that traveling workbook that I got at the gas station when I was a kid on a road trip, right? And I was bored because I couldn't listen to my dad's classical music any longer. So I had to do something, right? And I found like one of those little books. And so this is an activity book that has tons of stuff in it, from anagrams to You Be the Teacher to mazes. If you click on the instruments, it'll play instruments. All right. So anyway, there you go. So like you can click on different instruments in the orchestra and you can hear them. So there's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with this. And if you put it into your Book Creator account, then your kids can make a copy of it and they can edit their own copy, not your original, but they can edit the copy. So I think that's a really, really awesome example of a book. The next couple of examples I want to share with you, I think are just fantastic. And I think that sometimes, you know, teachers get like overwhelmed with creativity and like, what, I'm not creative, what do I do, right? And so this book here, which is amazing, there was a teacher who took pictures of a book that she would have read to her students in class. She called the author and said, can I use the book in this way? The author was great, said, yeah, do it. And so this teacher took the book, took pictures of every page, put it in a Book Creator, but then she put audio buttons of herself reading the story in there. She put a video of herself, she put like extension questions and activities inside this book. So like one of them,
it's almost like a book study, isn't it, John?
Yeah, it's a book study, guided reading, you know, but you hear your teacher whose voice you miss anyway, right? Reading.
That's a great model for people that might have Zoom fatigue right now. Like, do it once, get it out there. They can go at their own pace, right?
Half the people just left to go read a book. So like, yeah, I mean, I just think it's really, there's some really amazing things that I see teachers doing with Book Creator that don't look like the traditional like book kind of thing. So that's one. And then there's one here, which is a collection of poems from high school students, P6 students who are just reading poems about this experience and how it's really affecting their lives. And it's just unbelievable.
There's the record button. Hear them reading.
No, I
Read
agree.
to me.
There's something a record button on here, right? That would have been even better. And then my last example I wanted to share is this one. I just got this one the other day. A teacher shared this with me. Again, it's a class yearbook called Shadows to Light. And it's basically just this one classroom that created a yearbook about their experiences of what's going on right now. Let me skip a couple pages ahead here. But so Cassie here, right, and Taya, they put pictures of themselves and things that they've been doing over the past year, documents that you can click on and read their stories and their journals of the year. And I think this is sad as some of this is, right? Because some of these kids are losing big chunks of their life that are very important. We're finding ways are finding ways to
Yeah.
make connections anyway. And I
Well,
think
and there's something cathartic about documenting it one way or the other, right? Like there's something healthy about talking about the situation, I think.
absolutely. My wife,
John, we got a question. We got a question in the chat that I think is really relevant right now is how do you make a template for each student? So like if in my Google brain, I'm thinking I can make a thing and send them a copy or file, make a copy. What's that look like in Book Creator?
yeah, let me show you here real quick. Let me get out of this book real fast. I'll just do it on this page. So
Okay.
for example, if I wanted to make this page a template, or if I back out and I wanted to make this book a template. So as the teacher, I just make a book. All right. So it could be 1 page, it could be 2 pages, could be 100 pages. It's up to you. You make a page or a book, and then you leave it in your library. And then when you click on this invite code to invite, I'm gonna put it out. I don't want you all in my library. When you invite students into your library, what happens then is they see your book, but instead of a pencil, they see a play button. They can't edit. What the student does then is underneath, there's this icon, these 3 books. They click on that icon and say copy book. And when they copy book, they choose the library they want it to go into. Now, obviously, they're going to put it in your library because you're the teacher who want to see it. But you click copy, it makes an exact copy of that book that the student can now edit. All right. I will give you a sneak peek. We are going to have the ability to globally push out templates in the near future. So if I'm a teacher, I can make a template and I'll be able to globally push it out to students. But right now, students have to join your library and they have to make the copy.
So the verbiage is a little different, but it's basically the same as file, make a copy if you're a Google person. It's just, you use slightly different terms, but the concept's the same. Yep. I could build a 10-page book with all the things I wanted the kids to do, push it out to them with that tool, and then they're off to the races customizing their pages. And this is like the slide sorter view in Slides.
John, am I hearing though that there'll be activities I can share with other teachers inside books? Like if it's global push out?
Yeah, so we're working on a bank of templates as well that teachers will be able to pull down and say, maybe I need a science journal template, or maybe I need a biography template or something like that. We're kind of trying to figure out what that might look like. So yeah, I can't promise when, but that's definitely something on the radar. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about real quick is something called the TWIMA projects. And so based on The World is My Audience, TWIMA, TWIMA, The World is My Audience, I created this project almost, 5 years ago. And I went out to Twitter with a simple question. I said, I'm looking for one class from every state and country in the world to join me in making a book together. Who's in? And I was shocked that the first time we did this, 38 classrooms from 27 different countries came together to write a book. And this is right here. It's called The World is My Audience. And that has actually spawned 8 other TWIMA projects. And so right now we're in the middle of TWIMA 9. If you go to, we'll send out a copy of this, but if you go to this book and you click on this document, it'll give you instructions on how to join TWIMA 9. And this version, we're talking about traditions. So family traditions, class traditions, school, state, cultural traditions. Even now we're talking about routines, right? Because we're in these weird routines that we're home. So I'd love for as many people to join the TWIMA project as possible. All the information is on this document here that will allow you to join. And I think my time is up and I still can't hear.
But I want to say one thing. Inside of, because you kind of made me think of this, John, like we're in the middle of a historical thing that will be in the history books forever. If you are a history teacher and you are not having kids document this history, I don't know if you should be teaching history, because this is the greatest example we will ever have in our lifetime. And how you're not making a history book and how kids take pictures when the park is closed, or pictures of people walking in masks, like, and documenting and do it the way a historian would do, with 5 ways that historians look at things. Like This is it. You should have nothing that you're doing else besides documenting.
I do want to, there was a quick question in there. It's a question that I get sometimes, and I wanted to address it real quick. It says, why wouldn't I just use Google Slides instead? Now, here's my completely uncompany-based opinion on this, okay? When I say to a group of students or to a group of adults, we're going to make a slide or a PowerPoint or a keynote or whatever, the first thing that pops into my head is bullet and death. That's the only thing that pops into my head. when I say to students, you're going to make a digital book that's going to be published for the world to see, and you can include audio and video and embed features from other websites like Flipgrid, like Holly showed, that is a completely different story. And Book Creator is something that I could give to a kindergarten student. My son was 4 when he made his first book. I can give it to a kindergarten student, and with about 2.5 minutes of instruction, they're off and running. I can't say that about Google Slides or PowerPoint.
I'll share a sadder one, John. Sometimes there's a kid in the class that when you're working in a collaborative slide deck that insists on tinkering with other people's slides, right? And in Book Creator, you have a little button that says combine books, and that really ends that problem. So you really can collaborate and yet have kids have their work safe.
Well, and there's so much more to it than Google Slides. I said before, it's reciprocal. It's so much more. I actually see when I walk into a classroom and they're doing something on slides, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
you could be using Book Creator.
And I would agree, Holly. You lose that interactive bit, right? You tend to make your slide and let it go, right?
Where's the learning journey?
Yep.
There's not. Yep.
So
okay,
that's my piece.
All right, here I go. So if anybody that's in here is an EduProtocoler and going, hey, this is pretty cool, but how can we do some EduProtocols with this? An EduProtocols, if you're new to the term, is the idea of reusable lesson frames, things you can do once a week, once a month, every day, all year long. There's a lot of creativity and a lot of open-endedness. And then we're going for mastery learning. So like Lisa Nowakowski, the Khaleesi of Math Reps, was like, we could make Math Reps books in this. Like Lisa could make a template of the Math Reps for the week, and kids could definitely drop in and memorialize their learning for the week. That's an interactive journal. Interactive journals are not things that you put in a luggage crate and drag home with a bottle of wine, right? And then maybe you come back Monday. They're actually interactive. And so, John, next slide or page. Next page. So basically, what I'm going to share with you guys is, if you've seen the Freyer model, is one of our favorite EduProtocols because Dorothy Freyer invented this in the late 60s. And it's really the idea of breaking down the book and the learning. If kids are looking through a textbook or a web page, what are definitions, what are characterizations, what are examples, what are non-examples? Super powerful way to learn vocabulary for kids because they're really dealing with all these different levels of the learning. And then I read Anthony Bourdain's book, No Reservations, his first one. And he talked about this term mise en place. And I had this epiphany that what we do a lot of times is give the kids a list of things to gather, and they spend all of their creative energy. Yes, Kitchen Confidential. Thank you, Cheryl. They spend all of their energy doing the gathering. And so Anthony Bourdain talked about mise en places with the sous chef because the chef does the plating. And I went, oh my gosh, I've been teaching wrong. What I need to do is give the kids all the pieces and have them build a thing. So if anybody has been around since the late 60s, we've got this thing called color forms where you stick things. It's basically a plastic felt board. And kids don't need to be able to draw, but back in the days before Game Boys and Nintendo, people would spend a lot of time building these little scenes just by manipulating the piece. It's kind of like paper dolls, but more advanced, right? So next slide, John. So then that's where this Iron Chef concept comes in. And so think of teaching and learning as a baseball card, right? So periodic table, baseball card. 10 types of ways to divide a number with decimals, baseball card. Important facts about presidents. So I looked up baseball card, but it turns out there's empress cards too. There's people that made baseball cards, finger quote, for kings and queens and presidents. So if you think of it as a concise way to gather a consistent amount of information, that's a lot like what Iron Chef is. And next page, John. So I'm just calling this an anything card. So imagine making a template that looks like this. The anything card could be what you're learning during COVID. It could be famous president. It could be how to operate a digital microscope safely. And basically on that card, you have the kids gather 3 to 4 facts, 1 picture, you have a secret ingredient, and you give them guaranteed info, which means there's a link to the real stuff that they need to look at. I need to take off for about 10 seconds, you guys. I'll be right back. So Holly, could you catch them up on the Iron Chef concept? And I'll be right back. This is crazy.
No, but Lisa probably can believe me if we open up her mic. But I do want to say, I want to ask question. See a lot of questions in here right now about like how do you do that? Do you guys want us for like 5 minutes at the end just to show you how you add something, where you go to do? Because I feel like we're getting a lot of questions around that.
And I'm back. So basically, using the model Jon Smith was talking about, I can make a book with 10 or 12 or 30, however many kids I have, with these slides on it. And then I have a link to what they need to research. And then the secret ingredient is like an extra fact about the thing. So if I was doing a book on microscopy, I might have a famous scientist who was involved with the developing of a microscope. And so here's the cool part though. I'm only going to give the kids about 10 minutes to build their page. We're going to build this book in one class period. So I have a very concise amount of information that the kids just have to arrange. Okay, John, next page.
All right.
And so an Iron Chef lesson is basically the same thing as what I've been building up to. One slide, or finger quotes, page per student. They have 10 minutes to build it out, and then they have a certain number of seconds to present, because, John, I can easily share this to a projector, correct?
Absolutely.
So we can build this out in this knowledge. And if you guys have been around EduProtocols before, so that's the Iron Chef. And this is what I would like to consider like real collaboration and reciprocal teaching, because the kids are actually building their knowledge together. I'm not just presenting, telling, and they're making notes. They're actually going out there, assembling their own learning, changing the color of the background, adding the pictures that they think tell the story. So next page, John. And then now this is the Marlena Hebern worked on this with us in book 1, the digital class book. So imagine taking the Iron Chef forward to digital class book, 1 page per student, 1 concept per page, certain number of minutes to build, and then a certain number of seconds to present what their learning was. So they're not going to read the whole slide to people. And we could collaboratively build a textbook. And so what's cool about this is I don't have to do a lot of direct instruction. I'm going to give the kids the mise en place to be able to play the game with the color forms. And they are going to do most of that learning and load carrying. And this is not a 1-week project. This is not a 3-class period project. This is built to be pretty quick and light. So it could be, again, it could be math facts, it could be details about adjectives or something like that. And we're going to go for building that in 1 class period or 1 school day. All right, next slide or page, John. And then the other thing I would like to tell you all is make that first one fun. So it could be dream pet, favorite musician, best day ever at a museum. Not all the kids will like that one. And then do it once a week or every other week all year long. And you can do this in multiple subjects. So this could be in history. This could be in language arts. It could be in art history. You can do it. You just make the research more or less complex so the kids can roll with the punches. And then make sure you use all the book creator tools. So like, how is this better than slides? Well, if I combine all those kids' slides, the first thing is I don't have kids to be able, they can't mess with each other's pages at that point. Slides does not do read it to me, does it, John? Holly, does it have that record button? It does not.
Nope.
So there's a lot of other options like that. And then there's the publishing option too, which I can share a link to my slides, but in Book Creator, I can share it out to a much larger library. And I just think that takes that share it with the world aspect to a whole other level. And next time, because we're doing another one of these next week, if you guys like this, I'm going to show people how to do thin slides in a Book Creator format.
New fave.
Right?
Yep.
So that's it for my part.
I want to make a comment about Flipgrid. People ask me all the time, because you can make a video inside of Book Creator, and they're like, well, why don't you just make the video inside of Book Creator in the first place? And for me, this is why. It's because I'm having to reply and do stuff like that on the Flipgrid, and it's easier to do than going through every book and trying to reply to others. But then I just grab the link from the book where it says share, like, and you can share to Classroom. Grab that share link, and then I put it into Book Creator, or they do. Well, they can't really grab their own share link, but and then I can put it into Book Creator, and I can have that assessment of prior knowledge that we worked with and did stuff with, but now I have it in a reciprocal of learning over time. So I'm using both, and one tool is not the way to go. So John, do you want to show John S? Do you want to show them how easy it is to create a page with some background color.
Absolutely. So when you create your free account, if you want to try the free one to start, you get in there, you make a library. Inside your library, then you're going to start making books. And again, if you're looking for a deep dive of this, go to bookcreator.com/webinars. Sign up for our future webinars. We got lots of those. We'll take a real deep dive into this. But I'm just going to click new book. Your students have a choice: standard book top, comic books at the bottom. I always say choose a comic book because it's got comic features. So even if you don't want to make a comic book, you can still have some of the features. So I choose the style. All right. And so here we go. So there's only two really important buttons in Book Creator. And that's another thing to me that makes it so much easier than anything else. There's two buttons. So I click the plus button, which allows me to add either media, comics, or shapes, or the I button, which allows you to inspect or do some changes to whatever you put on a page. So real quick, shapes, there they are. You've got some shapes. You can add some text into it. You can, change the colors. You can do fun things with shapes. Media, this is where like a lot of the really cool stuff happens. And so with the import button, we've got a Google Safe image search built right into the tools. Click it. It's the same search that's in Google Slides and Google Docs. But Google loves us. They let us put this in here. So I search an image, just put a dog in here. So I find a dog I like. Where's my guy? There he is. I hit select, right? And now we've got an image on the page. And from here, there are other cool things that you can do. So if I click the inspector button, I can hyperlink that picture to a website or to a page. I can add accessibility text, which is hugely important when we're writing a book for a global audience. We want everybody to be able to read it. So that's images. We also have, and again, this is the quick version. Under the media import, we've got files that you can pull in, Google Maps. You can embed content. Basically, any site that allows you to create something, give you an embed code, you can dump into Book Creator. Flipgrid,
Even just the link.
Yeah, Desmos calculators.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to share, John, is if folks don't understand what embed is, it's super powerful and I think highly underappreciated, because if you've ever been on a web page, do you want to click to go to another web page to watch the video, or do you just want to watch the video? You just want to watch the video. So you can embed, and I think I heard Holly say this, you can embed a Desmos activity in the book. So they don't have to leave anywhere. Yeah. You can embed a FET activity, like a science activity, in the book. Scratch. You can put that activity
over time.
In the book. It's in the book. It's amazing. So they don't have to leave, which means fourth graders get less confused, which means they're working more. And then you have that ability to do, like, you could do a sketch and tell kind of thing if you're an EduProtocoler, because you could have a Desmos activity on one page and on the next page, draw what you learned and then explain it. And it's one clean flow. And you can't embed things in Google Slides. That's another differentiator.
I mean, once you want to ask a question.
Lots of content here. We have a pen tool, which has auto draw included, which is
fantastic. Oh, do that. Can you do that real quick? This is rad. So, this is money.
In my opinion, like if I ask a kid to draw, if they're above about 5th or 6th grade, they're going to hate you.
They're going to say, why? I'm so bad at this.
They will when you tell them you have to draw on a trackpad, right? Because drawing a trackpad stinks. So I'm going to draw a bike, all right? And I'm already angry because they look like deformed donuts, okay? As I'm drawing my bike, at the top, AutoDraw is trying to figure out what it is. Is it a toilet? Is it glasses? Is it a drum set? Oh, no, it's this bike right here. I click on bike, done. Now I look like I actually know what I'm doing. I can click the X box over here, change my color, maybe do some magic ink, hit the fill bucket, and now I've got this really cool magic ink bike.
That is mad creativity right there.
I didn't even know you could do that, actually.
Yeah, I can even put an emoji there, so now it looks like a Tour de France bike, right? And so now I've got this bike. I can resize, move around, and make it pop wheelies. So some really cool stuff.
So like Kim Bogie just popped off that her world has been rocked. Kim had her kids using the Noun Project to use icons like this for her kids to make an advertisement for their national parks. But one of the problems with the Noun Project is you have to go to another app, which means another login, unless Dinnerstein's district's going to say no more apps. That's all built into Book Creator. It's a seamless experience.
Yep. And we have a great book. This is something I never would have thought of, but like just the emojis alone, we have the, oops, I think I just froze my screen. My Book Creator screen. Hang on a second. One of the things we have is emojis. So using emojis as icons is very powerful as well. So it's something I wouldn't have thought about if I'm making a book about sharks, to pull out the shark emoji, blow it up real big on the screen,
Right.
and make something special. It's not something I would have thought about. So anyway, there's that. There's all the rest of the media, the record button. So like Holly said, press record. You can record your voice reading a page. You can record your thinking out and put it down there so that your teachers truly understand how you got from A to your math problem. There's great things there. And then we have comic features. So there's panels, speech bubbles, thought bubbles, and stickers. It's just really cool stuff that I think is really awesome. If you click a blank page and click the inspector, we've got comic backgrounds. We've got different colors you can choose. We have different papers, right? So we have graph paper for your math teachers. We have small graph paper.
Woo, woo, make the squares little for her.
Yeah, we have even smaller paper, which nobody's going to use because nobody can see the squares, right? We have writing paper, college rule. We've got kindergarten paper, the dot game you play when you're bored at PD, that dot game you play when it's an all day.
You're not bored at PE.
Right?
PE.
So many things here that, like I said, come to one of our other webinars, get that deep dive, but you'll have some fun. But that's Book Creator. And then if you want to publish it, click share, hit publish online, make sure everything's good there. Publish it. Oh, I didn't give it a title. Publish it one more time. Done. That's it. And then I take this blue link right here. I copy that, paste it into an email, newsletter, Remind 101, text message, whatever.
Now all the parents in your class are reading the class book on Facebook, as long as you're set up for that media-wise and FERPA-wise, and you are gone.
And check this out too, because I get this question a lot. If I make edits to the published book, then what? Guess what? The edits show up online on the link automatically. You don't have to stop, republish, edit. You don't have to do all that. Just edit it and it's done.
You guys do know one of my students did this and got the PDF and uploaded it to Amazon and like was giving it away.
It's publishing it?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's what happens when you're in 7th grade.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Push all the buttons. And I don't know if you guys know this. I'm not a spring chicken. I can remember in 4th grade when our teacher announced that we were going to make a book, and every kid got to color one page. And 7 months later, the book showed up, and we frankly had forgotten that we made it. So this is so different for me because you can have these really quick turnaround projects. And when you take a teacher like Kim Bogie or Jenny Colwais or Kristen Morales, and they match up their creativity with this ability for kids to produce literally almost anything they want, including a book that will read to their friends, boom. I mean, it's cool.
The most underused app. Like Kim should not be having her mind blown by this. She should have been using this 2 years.
I will admonish her later privately.
But I will say this. So I work at a lot at an iPad school, and we actually take, we don't use the app because you can't, you can collaborate maybe now or something, but it's standalone on the app, and we want kids all in the same library. So maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong on any of that, John, but we use it on Chrome. We don't use the app anymore. We like it better on Chrome.
Yeah, the app and the iPad, the iPad app and the Chrome are totally separate. So the best way to think about it is just they're not together, right? Don't think about it that way at all. The app does not allow collaboration. It does not allow joining libraries. The online version does. But you can use the online version on the iPad, on Chrome, on Safari, or Edge. So it acts, if I covered up the browser, you'd never know that you were on a browser. Like, it feels like the app. It's so smooth.
There's no tweet. There's never a problem. Never.
Yeah, that's cool. And that is worth clarifying because I remember back in the day when Book Creator first came out, it was one of the hottest apps on iOS. And then there was a magical day where now it just lives in the web, you guys. You don't need to do a lot. You just crank it up and go, and it's super powerful.
You don't have to have your iPad with you.
Yep.
Well, cool. So here's what we're doing next week. So those of you that are joining us next week, we're going to do what we call a one book, one lesson, 1 hour project. So in 1 hour, we're all going to work together to create an amazing book. All right. And so we're going to talk about John's thin slides. We're going to talk about some other things. And then
do it with thin slides.
In the hour, we're going to make and publish a book. And it's going to be super cool.
And all the royalties on Amazon go to me, right? Isn't that way we agreed?
There's no 7th graders who are going to publish it.
Catherine, I see you down there. Did you want to say anything, Catherine, on this slide, this page?
Just it's next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Q is going to be emailing out another registration. So make sure that you register for this. It's going to be super fun. Everyone will be involved. You're all going to be joining into the same library. Everyone will be creating pages together. And by the end of the session, you should be able to have at least one lesson to bring back to your students for remote learning, and then also for your classrooms in the future too. So make sure to join that.
Is it against the law to make it a virtual happy hour book creator session?
Ooh, we could have adult beverages by type and by classification.
You are more than welcome to bring any beverage you would like. But also make sure to check out the webinars. We'll also send in a follow-up email to access them. I know we had a ton of questions, which is so exciting. Check out the Getting Started webinar and the Home Learning webinar. When you get this book, it's right on this page too. It says Want to Learn More. Check those out. You can even just search on Google Book Creator webinars. That will pop up for registration. We hope to see you on those too. And thank you. I'm excited for next week as well.
Yeah, I just want to thank you. And again, for Catherine, I'm Jon Smith, Teacher Success Manager of the iPod Teacher on Twitter, JonSmith@bookcreator.com. And then Catherine, School Partnerships Team, BookCreator_Cat, Catherine@bookcreator.com. We appreciate you being here. And next slide is John.
And I just want to say thanks to all the Q fam. You guys are deep and wide out there. We'll see you back next week for some thin slides. We're going to bust out a book in one class period. I'm super excited. And then we're definitely going to send an email follow-up to everybody with a link to the recording. And if it's okay with John and Catherine, we'll send a link to this book as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Cool. And then we didn't put one in here for Holly. Hold on a second.
Well, let's just make one. Let's just demonstrate it. No, let's just do it. We're 3 minutes early, for goodness sake. We have time to build.
I can't get on it because it's not my share screen. But
Here,
I'm Holly Clark EDU. We're good.
Here, watch this.
I didn't feel left out at all.
Here, Holly. Here, we'll make you feel better. Boom. There you go. Okay.
We'll put Holly in every third page next week, John.
Well, thanks everybody. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy making.
Cheers.